Hello, I'm Charles Covis, Australasia's passion provocateur. Welcome to this week's episode of the Charles Covis Show. In this week's episode, I examined some key lessons from a wonderful grand final in Australia last night that you can apply to any team that you're a part of. Great teams become great because the team members are having a great time. The lessons I share here will help you to build, maintain, improve any team that you're a part of, any team that you are leading. And let me say that your ability to lead and build teams is going to be crucial to your success in your life. Stick around. I promise you the ideas I share with you will be useful. This weekly show is founded on the formula SA plus P equals S. Self-awareness plus passion equals success. Your self-awareness plus your passion will give you success. Since 1993, when I left my successful legal career to become Australasia's passion provocateur, I have inspired, provoked, educated audiences and individuals to discover and pursue their passions, to live life with passion. I've helped people with the books that I've written, Passionate People Produce, Passionate Performance, speeches at conferences, working as a coach of teams, just like I'm talking about today about teams. I've helped coach teams over a lengthy period of time. I've helped individuals one-on-one with executive coaching. This show is also guided by Socrates' famous saying, the unexamined life is not worth living. So I hope that your regular listening to or watching of this show helps you to keep examining your life so that your life is one that is worth living because you are constantly examining it. I promise you, I'm constantly examining my life. I'm constantly examining what can I do better? What can I do differently? What am I doing that's not working? You can see I'm wearing my red jacket, red the color of passion, designed to provoke you when you see red to think about whether you are or are not pursuing your passion. Each week I explore one big idea that can change your life. One idea because too many ideas lead us to not choosing anything. This is episode 78, so that means there's been 78 big ideas I've shared so far. Many more to come. Each week I share with you some practical resources that will help you to implement the big idea that I have found useful in the clients that I have coached in my journey for the last 28 years. A song, a book, an inspiring quote, a spiritual tip, a health tip, and some humor. As you know, life is not meant to be all serious. In fact, there is an argument that this whole thing that we're living, life is really a bit of a joke. Anyway, that's for you to contemplate. That gets very heavy philosophically. I might have to examine that. That's an interesting thought. Is life a joke? Good. Those regular listeners and viewers will know that I'm chairman of the Australian Institute of Comedy and on the board of the Australian Cartoon Museum. So comedy plays a big part in my life. This show is not politically correct. I promote healthy addictions. I'm addicted to coffee. I'm addicted to sport. I'm addicted to exercise. I have no desire to be politically correct. Political correctness is an abomination that absolutely squashes free speech. And free speech is the crucial element in maintaining freedom. If you want to take away people's freedom, stop them speaking freely. That's the starting point. This show definitely subscribes to the view that we have a spiritual life. The human spirit is such an amazing, amazing thing. So don't ignore it. If spirituality offends you, then this is not the show for you. But I hope that it is, or I hope that you might make it part of your life. So what's happened in the week since my last show, since episode 77? Well, we had the football grand final normally played in Melbourne, played in Perth because of lockdown nonsense. And that was between Melbourne and the Western Bulldogs, commonly called Footscray. The Footscray Football Club and the Melbourne Football Club. Melbourne is the Demons, Footscray are the Bulldogs. And of course, in most team sports around the world, they've got these animal or other characteristics to help people or to have kids relate to it. But that was a big deal in Australia, but certainly in Victoria. The grand final is a big deal, but this is the second year in a row due to lockdown issues that the grand final has not been held in Melbourne at the famous Melbourne Cricket Ground, which is where the 1956 Olympics were. So what I have to report to you is that Victoria is a very sad place, not only because it lost its grand final, although there were two Victorian teams playing it, because it's now a national code. For those of you who aren't aware, there are 10 of the 18 teams come from Victoria, and the AFL, the Australian Football League, came from the Victorian Football League. So there are 2 teams from Western Australia, 2 teams from South Australia, 2 teams from New South Wales, and 2 teams from Queensland. That adds up to 18, just in case you're worrying about my maths. But Victoria is a very sad place. Victoria is being destroyed by political decisions around that particular virus, around outrageous house arrest. The city is being destroyed, unwarranted, absolutely unwarranted in my view. I predict there's going to be massive corruption will be shown to have happened as a consequence of the decisions these politicians are making. I say stupid decisions. Australia is being destroyed. So in Perth last night, there were 61,000 people all sitting together. You know, the Perth Premier is saying how wonderful this is. Australia is being destroyed. Section 92 of the Constitution says we're supposed to have totally free movement and commerce between the states. That's been destroyed. And I am absolutely suspicious. I'm hugely suspicious of the thinking that's going on behind that destruction. There is a petition to the Queen by Senator Rodney Cullerton that I urge you, if you're interested, to have a look, because Australia has been corporatised. It's no longer the Commonwealth of Australia, contrary to our Constitution. There are some corrupt, there are some criminal constitutional behaviours happening, including treason and sedition, that are described in this petition. I urge you to have a look at it. If you would like the petition, then ask me, I'll send it to you. Freedoms in Australia are being destroyed. Apartheid, medical apartheid, is being promoted. So those who have had a jab and those who have not. Those who have had a jab are being urged to not have anything to do with those who haven't been jabbed. That is a fraud, a lie, it's corrupt. It will destroy Australia. That's the game plan. And Australians have to push back against this. You are free to have a jab or not to have a jab, but to then discriminate against people because of making that wise choice is a disgrace. It is worse than a disgrace. It is, like, I'll think of a word later. The problem in Victoria, despite being a sad place, despite destroying Melbourne, in my assessment, 60% of Victorians are having a good time. In fact, our Premier, Daniel Andrews, who I accuse of being corrupt, of acting criminally, incompetently, and he still gets a 53% vote of approval by people. Again, I say, those of you who think Daniel Andrews is doing a good job are ignorant, either innocently, negligently, or criminally ignorant. It is, and you know from all these shows, I have spent a lot of time, I spend a lot of time on these issues. The fact is that not one public servant has had a drop of income. Big business is booming. The Australian Stock Exchange is booming. What's being destroyed is small to medium enterprises and people's lives and kids wearing masks. So 53% still approve of this Premier. In Perth, Mark McGowan shutting the borders, destroying our federation. He gets lots of approval as well. These politicians will pay for this destruction. Mark my words. And you public servants and you people who think it's okay to just accept that 40% of Australians our lives are being decimated, your children will pay a big price for that. You cannot decimate a country and not have your children pay a price. There will be a day of reckoning, and I'm making sure that I will be part of imposing that day of reckoning. I am on the legal committee of the World Council for Health. I urge you to visit that website. There are so many alternative treatments available, and this is an organisation of some 40 medical organisations around the world, mainly doctors, but some lawyers. I'm on that council, and I'm on the legal committee, and I am doing what I can to hold these politicians to account for their disgraceful, criminal, corrupt decisions, not only in Australia, but around the world. That's what this World Council for Health is all about. Its website is worldcouncilforhealth.org. The website was launched 3 days ago, but I've been to weekly meetings of the council for the last 8 weeks. And whilst all that is indeed doom and gloom, is indeed the destruction of our state, of our federation, of our country, I'm delighted to report that I and Julie are still having a great time. So please, I've learnt from the lessons that I've learned over life that you can be happy regardless of what is happening. And I assure you that I am happy. I'm passionate about pushing back against outrageous political decisions, but I'm happy right now. Julie's ridiculously happy, she says. We're ridiculously happy together. So there's this interesting balance between fighting for what should happen in this country, for what should happen in your country, but also at the same time being happy that we're alive today, because all of this might just be a joke, It might be that the destruction of everything that we hold dear doesn't matter. It's all just a joke. We're all going to die in the end, aren't we? So I'm still exercising every day. I don't observe lockdown limitations, house arrest I call them, outrageous, unscientific, improper taking away of freedoms. So we're happy. I hope you are happy. I hope you learn to be happy regardless of the hardship that you are going through, because that's a great way to live life. That's what passion gives you, that you live life that way. So before we get to today's big idea, I invite you to subscribe to the YouTube channel by clicking the button below, subscribe to the podcast so that you get notification of when we issue these shows. You can sign up for Passion Points to Ponder on our websites, covest.com and charlescovest.com. You can discover all about the self-awareness and passion quest by asking for the manifesto. You'll enjoy reading it. It'll give you some good ideas on how to live your life. And, of course, if you enjoy this show, please share it amongst your family, friends, work colleagues. So, today's big idea. Being part of a great team is a great experience. It's a remarkable experience. Last night in Perth, a Melbourne team, while I'm enjoying this addiction of mine, two Melbourne teams played off for the grand final, and it was a great win because halfway through the third quarter, the Bulldogs were 19 points in front, and Melbourne, who had finished the season on top of the ladder, were struggling. And then all of a sudden, so 19 points down with only 1.5 quarters to go, Melbourne end up winning by 74 points. An extraordinary turnaround. It was an amazing game. It was a great game, and watching this team win in that fashion was inspiring. And also, despite the fact that it wasn't close at the end, it happened so quickly. It was almost breathtaking. So, watching great teams in action, there are lessons to be learned from it. And I want you to imagine teams that you have been a part of in your life. Family is a team, marriage is a team, exercise, sporting teams, business teams. And of course, in a business team, you're often in more than one team. Charitable teams, religious organisations, what I call the not-for-profit sector. There are a lot of people who make great contributions to the not-for-profit sector. And I want you to think of the teams that you have been a part of. I've been a part of teams all my life. Like in my late teens, I was secretary of a tennis club. I was secretary of the Lawn Surf Lifesaving Club. So many teams. I played football in 1971 when I was 19. I played in a premiership team of senior footballers. It wasn't an underage team. I want you to imagine the teams that you've been in. What did it feel like to be part of that team? And when I run workshops, I take people through a meditation exercise to remind them of the teams that they've been in and the experiences that they had. And then I say, describe what that experience was like in one or two words. And some of the words that they used is that it was inclusive, it was loving, it was caring, it was adventurous, it was challenging, it was successful, it was a learning experience. It is so special to be in a great team, and it's worth fighting to build a great team. Sport gives us great lessons to apply to other areas of our life, of family, of business, of charities, of how do you get a group of human beings working in a great way together to build what I call a great team, because that way you've got a chance of achieving great outcomes. So I want to share with you 5 big lessons from yesterday's grand final. For those of you overseas who haven't seen it, it's worth having a look at, particularly from the start of the second half. It was just remarkable. So the first lesson, never give up. Melbourne, who used to be the most successful team in the VFL, the Victorian Football League, that became the Australian Football League, for 57 years it had not won a premiership. 57 years. They could have given up. They were looking at merging with other clubs because they were so unsuccessful. It's just a great lesson that everyone can look at and go, hey, it might be tough today, but in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years' time, things will change. This too will change. Never give up. The second big lesson, the reviews of how the Melbourne Football Club has been operating this year is all about creating great relationships between the players, between the coaches, between the administration. The players clearly care about each other. And what great teams have, and obviously in a marriage, hopefully, it shows, but also in charitable organisations, you build a trusting and caring environment where the team members can trust each other and actually care about each other as human beings, regardless of what their capabilities are. Because what we often do in teams is we discard people because they're not as brilliant as we are. Every team needs players and performers and participants, all capable of different things at different times. And they each have unique, as you often heard me say, weird insights. There are the superstars of the team, and there are the lower level workers. There's the A, B, and C grade players that gets categorised. But a team cannot function without C players because nobody can just have A players, A grade players. So you create this environment where the players trust each other and care about each other, and it's a difficult thing to do. That's why teams win 1 year and they don't win the next year, because the magic disappears. But it's a magical thing to create, and some long winning teams manage to create it. An example of that would be Ray Dalio, for example, from Bridgewater Associates, whose famous book Principles I'll talk about in future. You can create a long term of trust and caring, of trust and love. The third lesson, from losing to winning, is often a remarkably tiny little shift. And in last night's game, halfway through the third quarter, Melbourne was losing. It was going to lose. As the commentators described, the Bulldogs had one hand on the Premiership Cup. And then one little thing happened, and suddenly Melbourne went from struggle to incredible confidence. And in the last quarter and a half, Melbourne scored 100 points, and the Bulldogs scored 7 points. Like, that is ridiculous. That is a ridiculous turnaround. And it was a subtle, slight thing. And that Melbourne got a goal through a particular set of circumstances, and suddenly they go, hey, maybe we're not going to lose. And suddenly, from losing to winning happened. That too can happen in any team that you are with. In your marketing endeavors, in your business endeavors. As I said, you never give up, you keep at it. And you make slight tweaks. You don't stick to what you're doing, because insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. But it can be remarkably tiny shifts that cause a remarkable, what I call, phenomenon to happen. That's what happened last night. The fourth lesson is to be clear about the disciplines that your team needs to observe, the team members need to observe. Disciplines are what create greatness. You can never achieve greatness without discipline. And the fifth insight I want to share with you, the fifth lesson, is that winning an AFL premiership is really, really difficult. The AFL wants to spread the winnings amongst all 18 teams. They don't want perpetual winners and perpetual losers. So to keep winning is so difficult. Well, to win one premiership out of 18 teams, clearly that's difficult. But the last four of the last 5 premierships were won by 2 clubs that have women presidents. Now, that was unheard of before the 2000s. Women presidents. Richmond, and now the Melbourne Demons. Kate Roffey is the president. And so you start to ask that question. The female insight into a male-dominant game. Of course, we've now got women playing AFL football in a serious way, so that it reinforces all of the strange elements that go to creating a great team. And Kate Roffey's impact on the club has clearly been of value. Not huge value, I'm not saying that it is, but it's worthy of note. I think it's worth reading about this grand final victory, of reading about big victories in sport, because it gives you insights as a leader. How am I going to apply these lessons? How am I going to build a set of relationships between people? And how do I get them to never give up? If you want your life to be successful in the future, your ability to build and maintain functioning and successful teams is going to be crucial to your success. So, some resources now to help you implement this one big idea, that great teams can be built, and having a great experience in a great team is a wonderful, wonderful joy, wonderful memory. I hope some of you are reminiscing of the great teams that you've been part of. So the song this week is from Grease. Great movie with Olivia Newton-John. It's We Go Together. We go together like remembered forever. And it's just beautiful lyrics. We're one of a kind. Our names are signed. We'll always be like one. When we go out at night, the stars are shining bright. Or in the high school dance where you can find romance. It's just a great uplifting song. We go together. And what I urge you to have for any of your teams is to have a team song. And so for all of you Melbourne supporters, it's got a team song, because most teams have. It's a grand old flag, it's a high-flying flag, it's the emblem for you and for me. So there you are, I've learnt that song. So, sing songs, you see. Singing is the language of the soul, and that's why human beings singing together unleashes something spiritual, and trust and loving relationships are all soulful, are all spiritual. Singing a team song together helps. I might also observe that with political correctness, you're not allowed to touch each other. But you look at those footballers, every time they kicked a goal, they were all hugging and kissing. And after the game, they won and they were all hugging and kissing. These are grown adults, you know. How come they're hugging and kissing each other in full public eye, hey? There's something for you to think about. My quote is from Albert Einstein. And it's very relevant to a team that never gives up, that wants to keep going. Problems cannot be solved at the same level of awareness that created them. Problems cannot be solved at the same level of awareness. And so this show is all about self-awareness. Not only self-awareness, but awareness generally. And so it's this willingness to keep raising your awareness level to go, we're not successful now. To what level do I need to lift my awareness so that we can identify what the levers of future success will be? My book is by Marshall Goldsmith, one of the world recognized as one of the world's great executive coaches. What got you here won't get you there. How successful people become even more successful. So in the AFL and in most top-level sporting teams around the world, the players that play, even the worst player in the 18 teams of the AFL, they are magnificent players, because to even get drafted into any of the 18 teams is so difficult. Similarly, in the NFL in America, in baseball, to get into the top league, you have to be good. But Marshall Goldsmith's book, How Successful People Become Even More Successful, ties into this level of awareness. I recommend it. My spiritual tip is to learn how to bring more love and caring into any team that you're a part of. Think about that. Love is spiritual. How do you bring that into your relationships? How do you harness that so that your teams, your business, charitable, family, sporting teams are more successful? My health tip for you is to get your genomic sequence done, because I'll give you one idea on health. 30% of the world's population can smoke all their lives and they won't be damaged by it. Why? Because their genomic sequence, the way their genes are built, is their body can handle the poison in cigarette smokes. Well, 70% of you smoking will kill you, but 30% it won't. The second idea is that for 30% of the population, aerobic exercise like I do, riding my bike, swimming, running, so aerobic exercise will not burn fat, will not lose weight. 30% of people have to do resistance work, push-ups, weights. So that depends on your genome. It's inexpensive these days to get your genes sequenced. And a spot of humor. And I thought, what would be an appropriate spot of humor? Well, I was thinking teams, marriage. So I thought, yes, I think marriage is the place to go here, with some good one-liners by famous people. Anne Bancroft, she said the best way to get most husbands to do something is to suggest that perhaps they're too old to do it. Rita Rudner, who's an outrageous female comedian, of course, Rita did her. I think men who have a pierced ear are better prepared for marriage. They've experienced pain and bought jewelry. Henny Youngman says, my wife dresses to kill. She cooks the same way. Rodney Dangerfield, my wife and I were happy for 20 years. Then we met. Milton Berle, a good wife always forgives her husband when she's wrong. Henny Youngman, I bought my wife a new car. She called and said, there's water in the carburetor. I said, where's the car? She said, in a lake. I love it. Anyway, marriages are teams. I love being in a team with Julie, and families are teams. And I hope that you have that reminder today of what being a part of a team is like. And if the teams you're in is not giving you great joy, then learn the lessons from last night's grand final. So that's about it for this week. I again invite you to visit our websites, covest.com, charlescovest.com. Covest.com for corporate programs, for public programs at charlescovest.com for the self-awareness and passion quest. My books are available on both sites. Passionate People Produce Passionate Performance. And remember to subscribe to the podcast or the YouTube and to share this show with those you care about. Thanks for being with us. I hope you think about lessons that you can learn from great sporting achievements. I hope your week is full of passion and that you learn in tough times to still be happy even though you're fighting to improve the tough times. Thanks for being with us. I look forward to being with you next week. Bye.